Hi, Gabriel. It's Jeff Allen here. I just saw your post here on LinkedIn today while I was in the train and got to the car and I wanted to do this video. I was going home after the train ride uh, on typing speed uh, for translation. And it's really funny that back in 2004, I think it's 2004, it was either 2002 or 2004, I wrote an article in a multilingual magazine, it was called Multilingual Computing and Technology back then, on comparing content creation and translation speed. And you're going to laugh about this. So I exactly covered what you're talking about here in the article back then. And what I did is I did a survey I conducted a survey of typing speed. Looking back with the ATA, I got actually access to some of their surveys back then that they had already conducted, and I did my own survey with a number of organizations and companies and individual translators, but mainly I was looking for organizations. I mean, LSPs and governments and stuff like that, translation bureaus. I think I had about 60 of them. Okay, 60 inputs. And I even had one person that was doing. He had an LSP that he was doing voice dictation translation. Okay, and I took all of the input from these different organizations, and it's up. This article, the written article, is up on my LinkedIn profile. It's in the inbox, so you can download it. Just go to my LinkedIn profile. You can see it in the publication sections. You can scroll down all the way down to the translation speed versus content creation versus translation speed. Or you can go actually into the Word documents at the very beginning and just go in the Word document, download it, and go to the Word document, find it, and click on it, and it'll take you to the link where you can actually download the article, get the article in PDF format. Okay. And what I did was I combined, and because there are a lot of things that there are different. I'm going to explain this because it takes into account what you're talking about here: speed and productivity. And what the key thing is, I took all the different types of input. Some were done by number of words, some done by number of lines, some done by pages. Governments did it by pages. Germans did it by a number of lines. A lot of others did by number of words per day. I asked for the general speed, including junior and senior people, and I asked the difference between reviewing and translating from scratch. Okay, and I asked them to not take into consideration translation memory, but just typing speed. Well, translation speed. Then I explained the process of typing and what it is. And since I had been professionally trained in junior high school, age 13, for 3 semesters at school on typing, I took 3 semesters. And I explained the process of doing the first semester, second semester, third semester, and the crease of that on a manual typewriter to an electric typewriter, and moving on. And I explained through my career the times when I had a brother printer with one line, and I said when I finally got to a computer, right? And I explained also my transition from doing it monolingually in English to doing it bilingually when I lived in France, when I had 2 different keyboards. I was actually putting keys. I had a printed keyboard, and I explained these things that are important for the actual productivity. And then when there are dips in speed, and that the fact that one of the key things in content creation and typing and translation is that you're creating new content, whereas typing, pure typing, you are replicating content from one format to another. You're taking it from a notes and putting it into a typewriter, or you're putting it into a computer. You take it from one format and you're converting it to another format. And even did that when I was doing dictation. I would have people would dictate to me and I would listen and type it down. Or even translate at the same time that I was listening to it. Okay? I remember when I was doing this at the University of Lyon, when we were translating course descriptions for the specific students. And I compared all these different factors, and I took the translation speed, and I converted it all to one figure. Okay, and I came down to is 2,400 and some words per day. Okay. But what I agree with you here, I mean, this came out of the article, is that content the thing of typing speed is and you have to distinguish between burst speed and long-term speed. So burst, usually what happens in typing when you're taking typing classes and stuff, is you're measuring what you can do in 1 minute, okay, which is burst speed, dash speed. We call it burst. And the world record is 129 words a minute, I think, from what I recall. I got up to 72 words a minute with 3 mistakes. That's my record on a electric typewriter. It's the fastest you could do. With inclination too, because you got the keyboard. But when I went to a typewriter, to a computer, it all went flat. I mean, if you have an ergonomic, if you're working a keyboard, you had a little bit of a slant. But when you get to a laptop, it's flat. So you actually slow down the typing. So then I talked about the fact that you can compensate for this by the fact you have spell checkers, right? So it doesn't matter if you make mistakes. You let the spell checker find it for you, right? So a lot of things I was explaining. It was I think a 3-page article. I explained all this. And this comes down to productivity, because in typing, what your goal is to replicate the content from one format, usually handwritten or voice, to a format that will be printed or will be in a soft copy, electronic copy, that you can print afterwards, or what you want, right? And that's pure typing, because you're replicating content, right? Format. But what happens when you're doing content creation, I made the difference between authoring and translation, because what happens is in authoring, you are actually cognitively thinking about the content you're creating while you're typing. And it depends if you're actually if you're a touch typist, which I was, and I can do it in both languages. And I can use either physical keyboard and type 50, 60 words a minute right now. I actually did it when I was about 40. I did another test, burst speed again, a couple times. So I could do 50, 60 words a minute in English or French with a logical keyboard. And then I could actually use one of the keyboards of one language and underlyingly change the logical format. So the physical keyboard, you got the actual accents and everything. You have the logical keyboard is, you've got like an English keyboard, American keyboard, or French keyboard, and you logically change it underneath with a switch, right? And you think in the other language, and then you type. Or think in the other keyboard, and you type with it, right, to get the accent marks or not. Move them. And one of the key things here is in content creation, you're talking about the cognitive process, right? You're mentioning in your article or your post. So the cognitive process of creating content while you're typing, it slows down your typing speed, but you're creating new content. And that's really a key thing here to take in mind. And you also have to take in speed that the average speed of any typist, of any of the typists that you're going to get for like a bilingual secretary or a secretary or an assistant, personal assistant, is Kelly Services, Manpower, and everything is usually about 30 words a minute. That's the minimum you want to get, right? And I was measuring at 50 to 60 when I was 40 years old, and I got up to 72 when I was 14 years old or 13 years old, right? Based on typing speed, right? But the problem is when you're creating content, or the issues creating content, you're creating new content, so you're not focused on the content replication from format to one to do conversion. You're creating the content at the same time. And so I was thinking about how when you're creating, and you're doing this as content creation, when you're doing, then we're going to translation, what you're bringing in mind is that you are converting content from one language to another of content that already exists. So you're not creating new content. Okay, this is really important to make this distinction. It's not typing, because you're not converting the format of the content of a handwritten form or vocal form, voice form, to or dictation to a printed form or a soft copy form. You're not doing pure content creation while you're typing, doing that. You're taking existing form, like taking a soft copy and translating it into another language. It's a different cognitive process than pure content creation, right? And pure typing. It's a mixture of the two. And then add into that, if you're doing voice dictation, if you're doing speech translation, but you're still going from an existing content source and translating into another. So there is a conversion. There is a translation conversion process. And there's cognitive activity that's happening that's more than purely typing, right? And so I wrote this article trying to explain this. I've restated the whole thing in this video, but I think I'm trying to make it a little more interesting and explain the key points of the thing. And I haven't read the article again, but it's something that I actually cite quite a bit because I'm a touch typist. So I'm not I'm like the police officer. They said that the two keys. That's always the joke, right? They can only handle 2 keys. I'm a full touch typist in both languages. And I have to think it takes me about 10 seconds to kind of flip in my mind to which keyboard I'm using, so I don't have to look at my key in my hands anymore. But I can take into consideration I have a spell checker afterwards, right? And I will add to it that I've always made the joke that I have actually stripped out all my accent marks in French in emails, not in formal, because people don't really care about the accents when you're writing emails, right? So I can actually speed up my typing in French by removing all the accents which are not necessary. And I've got a whole thing about that. Maybe I'll do a video about the reason why I do that, because I actually I'll explain that in a separate video. So I think what you're getting to is something really interesting, because the productivity is really important. It's not about quality, right? Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to create enough content at the speed in which you can type it. And if you're a slow typist, you're not going to get the delivery done in time, right? You're going to spend way too much time creating the content, then doing the content with your cognitive skills of translation, than what you're able to do by hour, right? Because it comes down to the hour. It's not by the number of words, just about how much time you're taking by hour, and how much time it takes you to do this content transformation in the other language. And so I've been very successful in my career. And I'm talking about when I was able to compare this with, I did this actually in the machine translation article. We did it for a series. That publication was actually on the machine translation, and I put it in that. It was one of 2 articles I actually put in that I wrote for that issue in a multilingual magazine. Because there was I'm going to translate. I'm talking about post editing, right? So I was actually putting it and comparing this to post editing. This is really important, because post editing is still another set of skills, right? So if you take these into consideration and you do this, what is the speed in which you're going to be able to create the translation, the delivery speed, the productivity and delivery speed, and this is a key thing, and it really does come down to what you're able to produce in a certain period of time to survive and make money. It comes down to that. And I think that you're really onto something here, and that article should be able to support, your things. I mean, it wasn't. I threw it together pretty quickly. It was a survey, and I did not. What I'll do is I'll cite another source here. I actually did another look up to one of my book reviews of Hans Kring's post-editing, machine translation post-editing, where actually in my list of publications too, it's down at the bottom, it's in the book review section, And he published a book in 2001, and I actually did a review of this book in Multilingual Magazine, or Multilingual and Computing Technology back then in 2001. I think it was back in 2001, 2002. 2001 possibly because his book came out then, and it was 10 years old, and so he's actually just rehashing what he's in a PhD thesis, which I kind of critique because it was 10 years old of content. But he talked about the thinking aloud protocol, thinking aloud, TAP. And I talked about when you think aloud, you're actually creating content when you're thinking out loud and brainstorming, right? And I use that a lot. I use this method for what I do. I'm doing a lot of brainstorming. My girlfriend kind of says she drives her nuts that I talk when I'm talking by myself. But I'm actually creating content. I'm actually organizing my thoughts when I do this. And I use speech. I use these videos to do this. So I can create a lot of content by using videos and have it automatically converts this. This speech to text actually works really well for creating content. So that adds another factor into this, right? By avoiding having to type, you're using using a speech to text system to actually type for you, right? And you're correcting that. So all these factors come into content creation, whether it be monolingual or multilingual. And I have actually moved away from. I'm actually right now a lot of what I'm doing. Like this comes down to kind of finalizing what you're talking about here. I have moved away from typing content. For a lot of what I do, it can be conference scripts, it can be patent applications, it can be reports, it can be everything. There'd be single language, monolingual, or multilingual. It doesn't matter if it's English, French, or whatever language. I will actually dictate it in a video, put it up on a video platform that has speech to text, and actually have the system spit it out for me, and then I edit it. And I can do multiple videos. I should actually explain this a little bit more in another video on the topic too. But I don't want to, because there are only 17 minutes are in this video explaining this one. But I think it's really clear. I'm brainstorming this. I mean, I haven't thought through it and said, here, here's what I'm going to say in the video, but I thought it was important to kind of get a process of explaining these different factors that get to what you're pointing at of content predicted. And now what I'm doing is I become highly efficient in my time productivity by using the processes that allow me to reduce the typing speed or reduce the time spent on typing. And I'm aiming at focusing out on the quality of the content, not the quality of the form of the content, but the actual content by reducing the time that I'm spending on typing, which I'm already fast at. So I can actually do it faster now than typing. So I mean, I think this is something creating. So all these factors come into play, and hopefully that gives a little bit of support. So look up those two articles. Look up the one on translation and content in the Multilingual Magazine, Machine Translation Special Issue 2001-ish. It's in my publications here, and consecration versus translation speed. And the other one on Hans Kring's post-editing review article that talked about thinking aloud protocol. Maybe those give you a little bit of food for thought for those things. Okay, take care.